long time going around that roundabout.
Right, I think we'd better kick off. I know there's a terrible traffic out there, so we might get some people dribbling in. And Keith Taylor hasn't managed to make it yet, so I hope he's going to be here very soon. But I thought if we did our introductions, what this format is going to be, I'll say a little bit, just a quick overview of what the situation here is in Southampton with the proposal that was put forward by the Strategic Health Authority. We're now thankfully abolished, and give us sort of a quick overview of where we are now from our point of view, Hampshire against Fluoridation's point of view. And then I'll ask each of these panel speakers to have 5 minutes to give their current position, and then it's open for questions. Basically, the idea is to where do we go from here, where are we at now, what will happen in the future if it comes back to the councils, and what we need to do or consider. And so it's really to sort of pick the brains of people on the panel here, and also anyone in the audience, of course, to say what to pick on issues that you think are important. So I'll be quick as possible in my summary, but just to say, Hampshire Against Fluoridation, I'm John Spotswood, the chair of Hampshire Against Fluoridation, has been fighting this for probably more than 7 years since it came up. And I think we've won the public debate. I'm trying, okay, I'm sorry, I've got a PA. I'll try and shout. Yeah, come forward if you want to.
Yeah, come forward. Seat to the front.
I'll try and shout as loud as I can. Okay. It's okay. Anyone who's so basically, we felt we had won the public debate with 72% of the people in Hampshire voted against, in Southampton and the area, voted against fluoridation a few years ago. And this was despite the Strategic Health Authority putting forward quite biased information. And we think we've got overwhelming scientific evidence that says it's harmful. But the question is, we have to persuade people in power to stop this unfortunate scheme. So the current situation is that every MP, every local council, every elected local body has said they are against imposing fluoridation on people if you are against it. And if 72% are against it, that means they are against fluoridation in the area. But Public Health England are still saying, or they're not coming back to us, but they are saying that they have the right to impose it because the Strategic Health Authority passed it back in 2009 or 10. But nothing is in place on the ground, and there's no reason for them to be doing that. So we think, in our opinion, this is not an established scheme. No contracts have been put. We don't even know the area it's going to cover. We don't know the costs. We don't know the environmental impacts. We don't know anything substantial about it. So it's not an established scheme. And therefore, they have to return it to the councils to deal with, in our view. But could be challenged. So I've asked Dr. Sandra White, who's the Director of Dental Public Health at Public Health England, to formally say that it should be determined locally by the local councils as per the legislation. That's what the legislation says. But she has not responded. She's not responded to me. She's not responded to the councillors who've asked her either. Just to say a few words also about the survey that came out or the results of the survey that came out last week, which said 10% of our 3-year-olds have dental decay. Well, firstly, they say you should brush with fluoridated toothpaste. And I should say Hampshire Against Fluoride are not against brushing teeth with fluoride, although some individuals are, like myself. But basically, what happens is it works topically on the surface of the teeth because it destroys the bugs that aid dental decay, but you don't want to swallow it. And the danger is, particularly with nice tasting toothpaste, that children swallow their toothpaste, and that is very dangerous. So we need to get that message out, and also get the message out that the manufacturers should not be making their toothpaste tasty so children need to eat it. Secondly, the statistics that you use, the 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds and all that, which says that they say shows benefits of fluoridation, are extremely suspect. What happens in fluoridated areas is the teeth come out about a year later because the body has been damaged by fluoride, and that distorts the statistics. So the statistics are not meaningful at those levels. You have to look at the lifetime of an adult, what sort of level of cavities they've got. And the answer is there's no difference in fluoridated or non-fluoridated areas for adults. So it does not work. And what's worse It makes the teeth much worse because it introduces dental fluorosis. That's a serious condition. 48% of people with fluoridated areas have it to some degree, and 12.5% have it to a degree that is serious and needs treatment, and that costs thousands of pounds of treatment. So it is basically bad for teeth. But one thing I want to get across here today is it's not just about teeth. We are very concerned about the other effects that have been shown in research. And it's based on bad science. They may say that there's no effects, because there are. And also, obviously, there's pressure from industry. Please come in, Keith. So basically, water fluoridation has been associated with extra cancers, IQ reduction, destruction of puberty in children, thyroid damage, brittle bones, and arthritic symptoms. And again, this year, more evidence has been piling up, showing it's a developmental neurotoxin, i.e. damages the development of children's brains. It's a mental disorders, it increases mental disorders, and we've demonstrated the mechanism whereby it damages osteoblasts, which are the things that build our bones. It damages our bones as well, and joints. So, there's a whole range of things here which we could go into, which I don't have time to go into, like it's increasing inequalities because the poor people can't pay for getting their teeth fixed because the NHS says it's cosmetic when it's not. And also that the minority communities get more dental fluorosis. But what annoys me is when people say there's no evidence of harm. Either are ignorant of the large volume of research, or they've not looked at it seriously, because there is a mound of evidence out there that it is harm. And what's happened is the research has shown there's harm, and they did an important epidemiological study in Ireland this year, which demonstrated that yes, there is evidence of this harm in Ireland, which has been fluoridated for 50 years. So I think this is a major public health scandal, and it could be about to erupt. In America, they called it Fluoride Gate, because they found people have been colluding between the government bodies and the pressure groups, or the industrialists who fund it, to put out bias data, to put out not only by omission, not putting out things that they should put out, but also cherry picking and putting out things that put a positive slant on what's been found and not the true slant. And the point is, people are dying from this. People do die from this. It is very serious. So we're saying fluoridation should be stopped across the whole country immediately. And Israel has actually done that. Just this couple of months ago, they said it is banned in Israel from now on. And several other areas are doing it as well. So the question is, what can we do? That's what we're going to ask the politicians, what we can do. No, just a few points I'll say. In Hampshire against fluoridation, we consider it is illegal for several reasons, 5 reasons basically. Firstly, the European Union has said that it is illegal to add a substance to food or water if it has not been approved by them. Fluoride has not been approved, so it is illegal to add it. Full stop, you shouldn't add it. Secondly, fluoride is being used like a medicine. However mistakenly, it's being used to change the body for what they want, a positive outcome for the teeth. So it's being used as a medicine. As such, it must be tested for safety. It hasn't been tested for safety, it's never been tested for safety, and it's not safe. Secondly, it has to be of medicinal purity. It's not pure, it is industrial waste, toxic waste they put in our water. It's not pure, it's got arsenic, it's got atomic things in there that give out, well, I can't remember the name of it, but I'll come back to that. But the third thing is it needs to be effective, and again, as I've said earlier, it's not in the long term. So the Medical Health Regulation Agency should have insisted that this be tested as a medicine. They haven't. We've pushed them to. They said they won't do it, and they don't give a good reason why not. So they're basically refusing to protect the public in the way that they are required to do by law. Thirdly, it's illegal because the European Court says you can't, and not only can you not add this to water, you can't add it to manufactured food. So anyone who's adding fluoridated water to manufacture their food is doing it illegally. They should have to import non-fluoridated food to do that. Non-fluoridated water to make their food. Then there's the Medical Code of Ethics, which says it prohibits medication without consent. People in our area have said 72% said they do not give consent, so therefore that should stop it. No one should force people to have medication against their will, and anyone who does should be debarred from medicine by the General Medical Council, but lo and behold, the GMC actually support it. Fifthly, of course, the thing about Public Health England shouldn't be doing anything with it anymore. It should go back to councils. According to legislation, they have to be dealt with by the councils. So basically, we need our politicians to back us at all levels. Dr. Julian Lewis has been doing a lot on the parliamentary level, and Keith Taylor has been doing work at European level, and of course we've got councillors who have been doing things locally as well. So what I'll do is ask them to do their 5 minutes, and then we'll open it to questions. Okay. So we start with Dave Shields. Dave Shields is the Southampton City Council Labour Councillor, Cabinet Councillor for Health and Social Care, and so he's the person who would be picking up this at the local level if it gets pushed back to councils, because Southampton would probably be the main council along with Hampshire County Council.
Thank you very much, John. Just to mention that, I'll go over that. My name's Dave Shields. I'm Southampton Councillor for the Fremantle Ward, member of the Labour Party, and Cabinet Member for Health, which includes now Public Health and Adult Social Care. My background was previous to that working in the field of public health, and I'm also at the moment the chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, which I thank some of you in the coalition for enabling. Just to say that the Health and Wellbeing Board of the City Council is a statutory committee of the council. I chair it. There are 4 other councillors on there, the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, and 2 members of the majority group and 1 from the minority group. We also have statutory members there, the Director of Public Health, the Director of People, we call it in Southampton, but it's a combination of children and adult services, representative of the Clinical Commissioning Group, the NHS commissioning body, who is a GP, and a representative of NHS England. So it's really important that this group, which has only been in place since last April, will need to be involved in any future consideration of this nature. So I think that's quite important. Just to say about my own personal views, I'm probably one of the only speakers up here today that isn't going to be coming out speaking against fluoridation. And I'll explain some of the reasons for why I take that stance in a moment. But also just say about my personal perspective. Firstly, I'm a socialist. I'm not unashamed about that. And I wholeheartedly believe in social medicine, whose best expression, in my opinion, is our NHS. And I worry that some of those arguments I come across, some I might say, that go against some of the principles of fluoridation vested in as an attack on social medicine, I think can lead to an attack on our very NHS. So I worry about that. But I'd say that's just some of the views. I'm actually, although I'm in that socialist tradition, I'm a libertarian, and I believe very much in freedom and democracy and expression. So I think that's a straight that will inform my views on this. I am also, though, egalitarianism, and I do feel very passionately about the need to address health inequalities in this country. I think it's absolutely appalling that we're the 6th richest nation in the country, yet our health inequalities are getting wider all the time under successive governments. That must be, and what drives me in terms of my role as cabinet member, we must do something about reducing those inequalities. And to boot, I'm an environmentalist. I'm one of those people that say, hey, I don't think you should mess with Mother Nature, but I do feel that it's important arguments that we need to look at science. I'm one of those who believes that there is climate change, and I believe it's man-made, and man must do something, or people must do something to redress that. So I do think that we should be looking very carefully at the evidence, and I'll be looking to work with people on that. Just want to put something right. I was very worried when I was canvassing in the last local elections, bumped into a chap from the Green Party who was canvassing in my ward in Fremantle. And he basically, we had a discussion about things as we did. And to that extent, I said, we probably found ourselves in agreement on about 90% of where we were policy-wise. One of those where we disagreed was on fluoride. And this chap there, he basically said that the Labour Party was in favour of fluoride. Whilst some of us might be, some of us have got open minds and some of us are opposed, I want to make it absolutely clear that there is no Labour Party stance in Southampton on fluoride. There are some of us in the Labour Party who might be for it, some who are against, and many who are in between. And I just want to make that absolutely clear. That reflects a traditional stance in this council in Southampton for the last 25 years. Every time we've discussed this question, it's been given a free vote. People from all the political parties have been able to exercise their views regardless of any whip. Or certainly that was the position up perhaps until quite recently. And I think that's quite an important thing here, is that people take this very seriously. It's a question of morals and ethics here. So I just want to say that for up until 2011, I think it was, before I became a councillor anyway, Southampton City Council had adopted a view that it was in favour of fluoride based on the evidence that it had given to it. I think probably as the things hotted up, and thanks no doubt to campaigning, political campaigning and other sources, that position changed in 2011. So currently I think the council's position is one of opposition since 2011. Within the Labour, I have to say I was, since that time, the councillors have come and gone. I suspect a number of those councillors who took part in that vote have moved on, and there are new councillors there. So I think that situation may well be checked. So I want to re-emphasise there's no official line. Having said all that, a couple of months ago I was invited by the leader of Birmingham City Council to come and speak to them about their experiences, which, having accepted the invitation to come here, I thought only fair that I heard it from the other side. And at that meeting was Andy Burnham. Now Andy Burnham is Labour's shadow health spokesperson, and he is pro-fluoride. He makes no bones about it. I spoke to him about this, and he takes that view, whilst he finds that's a really important view. Should he become the next Secretary of State for Health, which personally I hope he will not be forcing that on any local authority, though that's his strongly held position. He thinks it's for local decision making. However, he did say to me, an important angle, got me thinking again, that this is an issue around child protection, that with the high levels of poor dental health which can be avoidable, that we should be thinking about what are the impact of not taking effective action on protecting the environment and promoting children's health. So that's given me something to consider, and something that I've shared with the chair of our safeguarding board in children, because I want to see what their view is in Southampton. And historically the Children's Trust has actually, along with all the NHS organisations in the city, has been in favour of fluoride. So I need to make sure that their views are taken into account. Just to say, I mean, we're probably running out of my 5 minutes there. Just to say that I think it's really important that we look at the evidence. I really welcome the opportunity for a proper, informed and reasoned public health debate, because I think that raises all of our awareness on that. And I hope we can continue that debate, and that when we come to make a decision in Southampton City Council, should we be expected to do so, but I want to make sure that not only is that driven by a strong and compassionate need to address inequalities, but we're able to carry sufficient members of the public with us. Thank you very much.
I'll ask Roy Perry to go 5 minutes now. He's the leader of the Hampshire County Council.
Thank you very much. Roy Perry. I'm the leader of Hampshire County Council. So happens I represent Nursing and Roundlands, which is one of the areas on the edge of Southampton and would be affected were fluoride to be added to the water supply. Sorry? Okay. From the county's perspective, this is, we have had one vote before we became the Public Health Authority, and like the City of Southampton, the County Council is the Public Health Authority for the whole of the County of Hampshire. But before we assumed those responsibilities back in 2008, there was a vote in the County Council on the principle of adding fluoride to water, and the County Council then voted unanimously with one abstention by a Liberal Democrat member from Romsey, but with just one abstention, the whole county voted against the principle of adding fluoride to the water supply. Now, what I want to do now, because this has become a very delicate legal issue, and I have to be very careful what I say, because should there be challenges to the County Council's position, people will say you had predetermined a decision and challenges of that nature. So I need to be pretty careful and pretty precise. So I won't do an Ed Miliband. I'll perhaps read out the careful briefing note that I have been given, so that we get those points clear. Much of it, your chairman's already said, so I don't have to read every word, but I'll only read words that are here. And that is, prior to the amendment of the Water Industry Act 1991, introduced by the Health and Social Care Act 2012, responsibility for decision-making on proposals in respect of fluoride rested with strategic health authorities. But from the 1st of April 2013, 1st of April is perhaps an interesting date.
Yeah.
On that date, the strategic health authorities were abolished and responsibility was transferred to the upper tier or unitary authorities. A question of, I can jump a bit of it, but a question of major significance for the county council, and this is the nub of the legal position, is whether or not relevant arrangements were in place between the Southern Health Authority and Southern Water on the 1st of April 2013, capable of being inherited by Public Health England on the date of the transfer of responsibility. The point being that if there were no such relevant arrangements in place on the date of transfer, then it would be unlawful for Public Health England to continue with such proposals. It is Hampshire County Council's view that whilst there may have been a request by the Southern Health Authority to Southern Water to enter into arrangements prior to that date, there needed to be completed and effective contractual arrangements, including all necessary terms, between the Strategic Health Authority and Southern Water. The County Council has seen evidence in a letter from Southern Water that so far as Southern Water is concerned, there were no arrangements in place at this date capable of falling within the provisions of the law. If this is the case, then the fluoridation proposals of the previous SHA no longer exist, and to be lawful, any new fluoridation scheme would need to be proposed by the local authority, namely the City Council and the County Council. And we have put that position to Queen's Council, and Queen's Council has supported the County Council in that position. County Council wrote to Public Health England in July last year, setting out the position as the County Council sees it, and has attempted to engage with Public Health England on numerous occasions since this date, in an attempt to seek legal clarification on the matter. So far, the County Council has seen no evidence which would undermine the position which the County Council believe obtains. In an attempt to settle the issue, the Chief Executive of Hampshire wrote to Public Health England on the 4th of April, proposing a way forward in an attempt to seek legal clarity. The suggestion is, and this is the suggestion made by Hampshire, that the parties, Public Health England and the County Council, and maybe Southampton City Council if they want to come along with us, is that the parties should seek a declaration from the court as to the lawfulness of Public Health England's proposals. To date, after many months, repeated reminders by the County Council's legal advisors, Public Health England has failed to give a substantive response. You could add any response to the County Council. All we have received is acknowledgement that they have received the letters. I was actually at a meeting only last Friday where there was a representative of Public Health England speaking to council leaders from the south of England, and I used the opportunity to say, what is your position on the adding of fluoride to water? And he said, our position is precisely that the local authorities now have to decide that. So I said, well, what is the position about Southampton and parts of Hampshire? And I said, I have a meeting this Saturday afternoon, and this was over a week ago, so can you get me an answer by next Saturday? I will do my best, was his response. As they say, I think it was Crowley, I have to tell you no such letter has been received. Yesterday I was with a meeting with Penny Morton, who's the new Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State of the Department of Local Government, and I again have asked her, as the Local Government Minister, please can you get an answer from Public Health England? She has promised to try, but well, she only had 24 hours. Certainly I know that local MPs, I can tell you that Caroline Nake's the MP for Romsey and Southampton North, has written on a number of occasions, and again has written to Jeremy Hunt, Secretary of State for Health, to say what is Public Health England's position. They clearly, as far as I can see, have something that they want to hide, but it is, and I will say to the MP, and I hope Julian will take this up, it is simply unacceptable that a Quango is refusing to answer the elected representatives of the community. So that is our position. The legal advice we have got is that there is no legal scheme capable of being implemented. And every time we ask Public Health England, can they make any case to the contrary, they fail to answer. And as I speak now, 2:15, 2:30 on Saturday afternoon, we have had no answer from Public Health England. So that's the County Council's position.
Thank you for that. Councillor David Harrison would like to introduce yourself.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you, Hampshire Against Fluoride, for inviting me to speak to your meeting today. I'm hoping it will be a useful exchange, and I'm only sorry I'll have to disappear at half-time because I'm jumping on a plane to fly to our conference in Glasgow as one of the few Liberal Democrats left in this country. Some of you may know that I've been supporting this campaign for many years. In fact, I don't think I had grey hair when we first started out on this venture.
That cause and effect.
It could well be. The reason I got involved in the first place, and the reason I'm still involved now, is that I'm deeply offended by the idea that the state, or an arm of the state, can forcibly medicate me, my family, my neighbours, or the community that I represent. And in fact, it's an issue I feel so strongly about that if it is imposed, I'm going to go away and live somewhere else. Now, I know that some of my political opponents might welcome this, but the serious point is that this is an issue that I think unites all democratic politicians.
Yes.
I worked for the National Health Service for several years, and a guiding principle that we followed is no decision about me without me. It puts service users of the NHS at the very heart of what the NHS does. And when it comes to wider issues of public health, I don't think it should be any different, do you? Unless we're faced with some sort of emergency situation. So we started with the Strategic Health Authority, an unelected, unaccountable body that carried out a consultation. This now abolished body did immense harm, not just to itself, but to the reputation and credibility of health officials generally, by deciding to press on with medicating despite the wishes expressed by the majority of the population. And people rightly asked, what is the point of consulting when you decide to do the opposite of what we want? The only answer offered by the SHA was, because it is a legal requirement. In other words, they weren't interested in what people thought. They weren't putting you at the centre of their decision making. It was the old, we know what's best for you, an attitude which belongs in the last century. So the SHA has been replaced, at least in name, by Public Health England. And for all I know, we could have the same characters working for the new organisation. And I'm not alone in being confused by the mixed messages put out by them. On the one hand, they've said they intend pressing on with the original scheme. They also seem intent on spending money on lawyers disputing the right of Hampshire County Council and Southampton City Council to make the decision. Conversely, I've heard PHE officials are now saying it is a decision for councillors to make. And it's interesting, they recently put out a press release about tooth decay, advocating what I think we all believe in, the merits of good oral hygiene, and in particular targeting very young children to get brushing their teeth twice a day with toothpaste and avoiding too much sugar. Interesting that they didn't anywhere mention plans to add fluoride to tap water. Now, let me be clear. I do not trust Public Health England until they make a public statement that they accept no scheme can be implemented without the consent and approval of councillors then we should always be on our guard. I've been very happy to work with Hampshire Against Fluoride and with colleagues in all political parties to see off this threat. Even now, I'm awaiting a response from Freedom of Information requests I've submitted aimed at finding out if Public Health England are trying to get their way by other means, perhaps a referendum, perhaps an offer to pay for a referendum. This is public money, folks, on top of the thousands of public money already having been spent. I think it's utterly disgraceful. I'm angry at the pointless promotion of what they're doing, the wasted consultation costs, the legal costs, all at a time when we are charged to make sure that we get value for money when caring for our people. If just a fraction of this expenditure had been directed at supporting toothbrushing schemes, we would have far less tooth decay problems than we have now, and a public health body that commanded respect. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now introduce Keith Taylor, who's the Green Party member of European Parliament, and he's going to talk about the European aspects, I expect, particularly why. But I'm particularly interested in why we in England can flout these regulations that the European Parliament seem to pass.
Right, well, hello. Thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry I was a little late. I just want to get one thing right out of the way. The Green Party is opposed to mass medication, mass fluoridation. There is no ifs or buts or conditionality. We are opposed to it, and that's why I am pleased to support Hampshire Against Fluoridation, and my predecessor, Caroline Lucas, was happy to do the same. I don't actually think it's a political issue. I think it's a common sense issue. Obviously, we've got to listen to the scientists. I don't happen to be one, but we've got to listen to the scientists, the doctors, the hygienists, who tell us the best information. But from a background that I have, which is I've been an MEP since 2010. I was a councillor in Brighton and Hove since '99. So I was there for 11 years. And I've got working for the good of the community, as I'm sure we all have, very deep within my veins. And quite honestly, the government, I thought the government's decision to make it in the remit of the Strategic Health Authority, whether to fluoridate or not, was a step away from that local decision making where you've got accountable councillors in your council and you can actually say, look, well, what do you think? This is what I believe. How will you cast your vote? Because don't forget, now it's in the remit of the council's decision making. Then you have a direct input to your Southampton Unitary Authority councillors, and you need to exercise your belief and try and convince them. The Fluoridation, Hampshire Against Fluoridation consultation unveiled a 72% opposition to fluoridation in the city. Now, as an elected councillor, you can't afford, can you, to ignore that proportion of opposition, because you want actually to deliver what the community wants. It's not up to councillors to say what they think is best for the community, not on a simple issue like this. And I think you can avail yourself of the information that you need, and the HAF has done some very excellent work in that. As far as the negative impacts on vulnerable groups of people, in addition to the dental problems, the number of diabetic people is growing. I know because I'm one of them, and I didn't know that fluoridation in my water might actually make my life more uncomfortable. So I think the situation in Europe was that Robert Pocock from Ireland presented a very good petition to the European Parliament Petitions Committee, and that went through various stages of consultation with the Commission. The conclusion of the Commission was that fluoridation, mass medication of fluoride, was not something they were going to take a view on. They thought it was best left to each member state. And bear in mind that out of the 28 member states that are in Europe, only 2 fluoridate their water. That's the UK and Ireland. So this is not a huge and pressing problem from a lot of member states. This is a passionately felt, passionate concern from 2, from UK and Ireland. And now I think the mechanism has been put in place by the government. We've got rid of the unelected, unaccountable Strategic Health Authority. We've actually got the local authority construct there, and they should be making the decision. And I think that I perfectly understand the difficulties, the legal position, the legal difficulties that Hampshire face, and that Southampton faces. But the point is that whilst the council has to balance the potential cost of legal proceedings against the decision, I think actually the time is right now for Southampton City Council to actually pass a resolution saying, once and for all, as indeed Hampshire have said, we are opposed to fluoridation. I think Southampton City Council should do that. And I think that should be an issue that you all take to your local councillors and make it. Now, as far as the European Parliament is concerned, there are 2 things to bear in mind. Firstly, the Commission has ruled in 2012 this is not an issue that they want to take further. And as a subset of that, there aren't many member states of Europe concerned by it. But the second thing we can bear in mind is that the Commission is all being replaced. So we've got that nice Mr. Juncker now in charge of the new band of commissioners. There's 28 of them altogether from different member states. And so it does present us another opportunity, which I will take, to try and reactivate the interest in this particular issue with the new commissioner. So I think there's 2 ways forward for Southampton City and for Hampshire, is to actually push home the advantage that you've now got, that you have got the decision making, and also to look to Europe to see whether or not it will eventually agree with Robert Pocock's assertion that this is a medication and really is illegal under European law. You know, the last commissioner came down against it, but the new commissioner might have a different view. So anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll carry on doing what I can. I'm swimming against the tide a bit, really, in relation to this issue, but nevertheless, it's an important one. And what I'm now going to do is, I didn't realise that Reading have got fluoridated water. I didn't realise that Tunbridge Wells has TN26. So I'm going to talk to the Green groups. Well, I'm going to talk to the Green groups. I'm in the Green Party. Well, I'm going to talk to the Green groups there. I know Reading's got Green councillors, and see what their local opinion says, and see whether or not they want to get rid of it. So that's it. Thank you. Love from Brussels.
And the class, Dr. Julian Lewis, who is the MP, Conservative MP for New Forest East, and has been heavily involved on the parliamentary level.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and it's good to know, Keith, that you'll be doing your best at the European level, although I hope everyone would agree that this is an issue, ideally, that should be sorted and solved as near to the local level as possible. And in fact, if anybody asks me why I take the side I do in strong support of the excellent work of Hampshire against fluoridation, it is because of a simple slogan, which is the people should decide. And that was not my slogan, it was actually the slogan of Gordon Brown when Prime Minister, who came down to Southampton in about 2009 in the run-up to the last general election, and he was asked about this issue, and that was his response. The decision should be taken by local people. He was not alone in taking that view, because even the legislation had a number of provisions which indicated that local people must be consulted before any fluoridation scheme was implemented. Now, why did Westminster put that in this legislation when many other measures are taken to impose things on communities without any such provision? Clearly, it was because the government at the time and Parliament at the time realised that this was a matter, as David has said so eloquently, of immense personal importance to the individual health of every person and family in a community, and therefore their wish should be paramount. Now, there are certain issues, this is one of them, climate change, dare I say it, is another, where people try to say all the experts on this subject are on one side and therefore everybody else has to accept it. In fact, usually all the experts are not on one side, but there might be a preponderance of experts on one side rather than another. But this isn't how we normally do things in the United Kingdom. And I say the words United Kingdom advisedly because, as we're all aware, less than a month ago there was a vote that might have separated part of the United Kingdom from the rest of it. And this is something that I think bears a parallel with the issue that we're talking about today. There were many